Hello, my name is Vahni Capildeo, and I'm the writer-in-residence at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine. Welcome to our gala reading, which is taking place in the interiority of your space and my space, in an isolation that is an opportunity for sharing. The first poem I'd like to read is from my 2019 book, Skin Can Hold, which is dedicated to the memory of the mighty shadow. Interventions around a city. This ritual is not intended to cleanse. This ritual is to wash away the ritual. The removal of the roofs is intended to restore a sense of the original roofs. The grandeur of the buildings which were wiped out may be reconceivable by the sky's grandeur. To return it to sand, how can you say that? Of course you didn't, when it was not raised from sand. To repair it with open watercourses, where was water's deeper hiding place from burning air? To plant it with orchards, how can you plan that? What grows? A foreign-owned desalination plant. The veins of this earth are baked with alphabets. View strikes as vascular surgery on plaqued earth. You will hear ambient noise, and there are two cities in this poem. One is the city I was asked to think about by English pen, which was a city that was under bombardment in the Middle East at the time, and the other the city of Port of Spain, where we are or should be on lockdown for coronavirus in March 2020. So you are hearing the intimate ambient noises of 2020 Port of Spain. My poem Odyssey Response was written for the actor Christopher Kent and the musician Gamal Thamis, who put together a recital including new work from Yusuf Kazmieh, Jennifer Williams, and myself to raise awareness of the position of everyone who's a migrant. To prepare, I went to the holy island of Lindisfarne on retreat, an island which is cut off by the tide, and at the moment we are cut off on our own islands. We're in isolation. This is the book which I read in preparation, Emily Wilson's translation of the Odyssey. Odyssey Response 1. Words take wing. Words take wing, fly commonly among all people who have power of health and employment over us. Go like the sparrows rife on summer streets of a holy island. Unlearn any fare. Flitting, bring to mind light and how quickly light fades. Bring to mind life, comfort in houses, fragile as windows onto space. Words take wing, as if lawyers were angels, as if death were a paper doll in a set of identical paper dolls, an infinite set of paper doll kings of terror, cancelled by a gentle, fiery sword. Sometimes words you launch in many lovely languages, yet before you begin to fly, you are misrecognized, like an owl entering a superstitious person's open-plan room being beaten to death, Athena's wise bird struck down, bloody feathers everywhere, a soft body, a futile piñata, releasing clouds. Could you gather up faith in strangers, in the absence of a god of strangers? Does any homeless person gleam like a god in disguise? Disgust rules. Do without. doing without big symbols. Zeus, eagles may acquire cruel associations. Words take wing, fly commonly among all people who share vulnerability on a trembling earth, who drink, or hope to drink, sweetly, cool water. 2. Hero. Tell me how to simplify a song. Tell me about identity, fidelity. Solve the problem of a face. Tell me about a state governed by emotion. Would you move? Choose to move? If they force you into moving? If you cannot afford not to? Make a song about one person who can cope. Is it a hero you want? Why not say so? I am suspicious of heroes. How do they survive? I know a mother who scattered her children on the way out of war and has not gone back to look. What if the hero, shining like a falcon, arrives, having traded their body for life, trailing killings and transactional sex? Is the hero empowered to treat their spouse to raw cuts of trauma? Treat them worse and better than anyone else? Help can be a trap, home a mating of traps. Who do you want at your back? Enough. I am privileged to have civil conversations in a corrected city, commemorate the correct dead. How changeable is a hero like modern rainfall patterns? How fearful is a hero patched like an archaic sail? How lifted up is a hero like the great-grandchild of immigrants, hurting his parents, hoping his child is kind. Witness those ghosts who, after a natural disaster, don't know they're dead. Poor wet ghosts trying to board rail taxis home. 3. The sea. Hooves, chevrons, arrowheads, champions, key racers, nothing runs so swiftly, nothing seems to run so swiftly as cool water pours back in, making an island of a piece of land once, sometimes no more than another part of the shore. A tidal island. Nothing runs so swiftly. Did you think I was singing about death? Should we give death preferential treatment? Should we be women singing to death? You saw. You knew. The sea is a cover for bones. How busyness covers news. New bodies are laid every day in the innocence of the sea. New burdens explode every day in the innocence of the air. How many of my family dropped, like shining falcons, in the duress of a forced migration, ivorying into the sunken halls of the only Atlantis rarely worthy of the name. The sea is a cover. There is a law of the sea. No, the sea is lawless. There is a modern law of the sea. The conference proceeded for 9 years. No, it is a convention of the toothless, for the toothless, by the toothless. The sea needs teeth. How can there be freedom of the sea without protection? How can you be territorial about the sea? Most of the civilized America never agreed. Never. 4. Companion. I tremble to think of meeting you. How did we meet on this trembling earth? A blizzard blew up. We sat on a stone a few paces from the farmhouse. We could not see or move to go to them. They could not come to us. We could not discern the tide rising towards us. How did we meet? He had turned his back on you. I loved the poetry of your anger. I wanted the poetry of your anger on my small island. Transported, cherished, forget any other kind of kiss. I tremble to think of not meeting you. You could be better off. Light was fading quickly. You saw. You knew I was unsafe, waiting in my full-passported femaleness in the cruel associations of a village of privileged abandonment. You sat on the bench, reached beyond death into Persia at your back, unrolled for me a mat of pure imagination, placed for us both a vase of pure imagination. Your metamorphosis was from refugee to host. In the street, you gathered guest right, offered me hospitality where had been others' hostility, till my neglectful official friend arrived. We thrived, like two birds in an embroidery orchard of pomegranates, oranges, and weeping pears, like impossibilities of climate redemption. They spin epic words to say none of this is home. 5. Hades social. Be thankful for the friends in a blue and white country who invite you to meet their dead. Together, in a small group, crossing the clean-smelling river pierced by mossy rocks, enter among tombs like garden sheds, houses, graves with lost names, granite pitted by acid rainfall patterns. Rub flower-less hands over lost names. Try not to bring anyone home with you, someone invisible says in your memory, sharpening into many voices, women singing to death. What is this place? How did you get here? You know, graveyards are unclean. The only way to go is by fire open to the sky, on fragrant woods, white camphor tucked under your tongue, releasing spirit from the ragged body to the innocence of air. I cannot be burnt, I cannot burn as I need to burn among these new friends, these kind friends, thinks the stranger. Be glad to meet the new kind dead your friends have buried. You saw. Next time, bring flowers. But I am sad for my future, in a country where my funeral customs are illegal. Whose problem is a soul, identity, fidelity? Death is a thief in a stationery shop. He strolls out. The shopkeeper, a poor man, runs after, shouting, "I saw you! Give that back!" Give back what? Death says, strolling out. Hermes is a tram attendant who holds your coffee, helping you find the coin you dropped. It rolls underfoot. 6. The faces of Odysseus. When the trembling earth dips away from our common ancestor, a wife living as a widow may look at the streaks and stripes of another seaside sunset, beauty in isolation, and tremble like the earth that the men lined up to land on her like shining falcons, quickly but not lightly. If an old person perseveres in life, yet needing your care, do not harass or tease them as Odysseus did, tricking his father into hard-working tears, washing his brain with real grief and reactive gladness. You know, You see Christ in the face of a wounded enemy, if you listen to the now celebrated poets weeping. What if you hear the song of yourself simplified on the news? What if your song is impermissible on the blacked out news? Odysseus, I see you. I know I thought I might dislike you. You were so hot. You planned it, standing naked, hot in the doorway, drawing the long bow no one else could, standing where Penelope could see the slaughter of fine men her hero would commit, war for an indoor Helen. I see you in the face of the vagrant, thoughtfully washing his clothes in the standpipe in the savannah, under the trees with no one to care. No one, Odysseus. One man's soldier is another man's beggar, Odysseus. He lives without love or teasing, sweet talk or complication. One woman's king is another woman's case, Odysseus. 7. Zeus, god of strangers. Stranger, how are you cast away, cast upon your own resources, cast on wildly different styles of hosting? What if your angry host feeds you up to go to war? What if the gifts lavished on you lay expectations on you to go away, make a success of yourself, and don't come back? What if you are blown back, empty-handed? You would be right to hide your name. Yes? You are a king at home. No? Slaughter and laughter cross your threshold in your absence. Slaughter and laughter at a distance shadow and echo you, no matter how you set off, or your clean presentation now among the elite. Yes? No? Where are you? Islands aren't always islands. All maps are pop-up. Volcanoes yawn, spatter out something the sea covers over. Rivers rise or silt up. Clumps form or dissolve, barely the size for two blue-coated Norsemen to duel on. Islands are provisional. World, whirl, the sea covers over. The queen of the dead lifts, in her lily hand with its violet nails, a head of snake hair. Do not go too deep. That way paralysis. You want action like tired people do. Stranger, you are cast like in a dream of being on stage unprepared. Is it right to invent lines? Traveller in body, buffeted about as a guest, Zeus loves us. Spirit traveller, revive as a good host. By Zeus, time traveller, if you see Columbus, shoot on sight. 8. That's epic. There is a city beneath the city, beneath the city, beneath the floodplain. Forget about it. A city is at the back of the city, at the back of the city. Ignore it. Ignore the scripts in which mathematics and astronomy were first written. Ignore the scripts incised in rock, the scripts inscribed in landscape. O muse, make the poet move on. Memory is no good to triumphant civilizations. O muse, your poet is blind, saying life has a sheen. O muse, your poet's a hostage, saying land has a meaning. Nobody likes a try-hard, a lace maker working with a vascular surgeon to join delicate gaps. Put memory in the service of intention to keep the story shining, like tears shed over onion skin, or the cheering faces of the well-fed family watching screens full of migrants plummeting or washed up at a border from a wall. The camera admires guards, themselves descended from migrants. The shining chorus of weaponry made manifest by taxes drops death on more children, shining, and their many lovely languages, as if they were done for from the get-go, like paper brochures in a digital age. Forget about it. Keep going. A story has the tricks of appetite. Odyssey response from Odyssey Calling. Thanks to Sam and Joe Walton of Sad Press, who have put coral on the back of this book. The University of the West Indies St. Augustine's Campus Literature Week has moved to Queen's Park, Savannah, and I'm going to read from an unpublished and in-progress sequence written as a result of taking walks around the Savannah and up Lady Chancellor Hill with Judy Raymond, whom you might know as the editor of Newsday, but who of course is a brilliant historian and also a classical scholar. People thought we were crazy as two female-presenting persons to be going out walking and running, but we were determined to reclaim the space. Of course, at the moment we're practicing isolation, and it's a good thing to reflect on what it means to reclaim public space at such time when we can. There are different reclamations going on in these poems. We were thinking of physical safety. Now we need to think of mental resistance and hope. Walk number 2. If you walk slowly, I'll have further to run. If nobody has abducted you, I'll double back to meet you. By the tulip tree? No. By the hospital? No. By where long ago ladies with flambeaux sold roast corn and boiled corn? Also no. By the baobab? By the pretty and stink cannonball tree? No. No. You don't walk very slowly. Before Raper Man Corner and the gingerbread house, you'll double back and meet me. A red seed in my hand, grey beads round my neck. You have further to run. Walk number 3 is one of these walks that didn't happen. So when two people are working strange hours, or nowadays in these strange times, there are many walks of the mind. And this is a cheat poem which fuses two places. Part of it is in the George Cabral Street of the mind, and part of it is in the Savannah of the mind. This week, the wheel of white-violet days has been dropping. Velocity burns. Wheel, turn. The doves have not landed on the roof. No, their clever feet have not splayed or clung along the ridges. The red tiles, unpracticed at being scaled, retain heat while undisturbed. The doves continue wheeling. I have seen them, rising like a dust of sublime objection by the very wealthy or the very young, able to get up and leave the chamber. Where will they land, and when? The church has lost the blue statue from its louvered window. The shops cleared out their garden furniture, and toys are sent for by air. Send me, then, someplace tiredness must fill my feet. High up, maybe the abandoned tracking station. I am no satellite. There is no moon. Here is a nocturne from the Savannah sequence, which consists of walks, nocturnes, and lullabies. Nocturne number 1. Dogs bark at least a block away. The night is quiet with crickets. Nobody has fired a gun tonight, I notice. Nobody within earshot. Bougainvillea grows purple, grows white, festooning the fence with spikes. Black paint flakes off electric gates. Birds have beeped their new calls long since. The close of day chirrups picked up from alarm systems not long since, and now perfected. The city keeps changing where the district lies, seldom within its lines. The hill shows a few lights, more than it had. The savannah uncoils with walks unwalked during a friend's absence. I'd fly there now. If I hadn't eaten so much salt, I would fly now. Nocturne number 3. When I was a child, oh, it was sad. I would round as a balloon, rose like a balloon, floated like a balloon. Oh, when I was a child, so sad. A balloon in a tree, oh, it was glad, blushing at birds in the tree. Light, light birds, oriole, kiskadee, hopeful balloon in a tree, foolishly glad. I married a tree, oh, that was hard. I married it in the night, it changed its nature at night, became unspeakable at night. Oh, my days with a tree so hard. When night covered me, oh, such deep shade. When night encaved the tree, enrobed the birds, englobed my soul. Oh, when night covered me, honeycomb shade. So I slept as a child, hard, sad, glad. Night played. Nocturne number 6. Night, I'm not going to say you aren't there. You hurt my eyes with promises of rest. Stretch weighted blankets on warmed beds, under which the hills can crawl, starring out their masts, mansions, scars, and forests. You press hills into your dark, like a brush, wetting paper with color. You are high up and fluid. Night, I'm going to hold on to you today, in daytime, in your absence, in your sharp absence. In bright fluorescence, I hold to you, surrounded by fluid darkness, indoors and out. In scathing sunlight, darkness nonetheless sheathed me, as if I lay down on air, high up. I have not been schooled to see like a scientist. Therefore I know your contours without having to touch you. And I know you're not there, not in that way. I am body of exhaustion, frequenting shops where natural tears are sold by formula with droppers. Eyes dried by overwatching, overweeping. I am not like that, night. I expected to break on you, holding on. The time for warning is done. Night, now is the time for joy. There are quite a few poems in this sequence. which we're hoping to publish from Les Gautier Press, a local press run by Nicholas Laughlin and Kristen Chen, whom you may have seen in his other guise as a Moko Jumpy. Hello, University of the West Indies St. Augustine Campus Literature Week has now moved to my living room, and I hope you may be in yours. I'm the writer in residence, and I'm going to run through a few of the things I wrote. This is my first book, No Traveller Returns, my first full-length collection, and there's a sea sequence in it that I was talking about to the students at UE because it was inspired by spending time in just one place near the Mystery Tombstone by Strawberry and Tobago, and the importance of the specificity of place to writing, whether or not you explicitly mention that place, it can saturate a poem. And this was the book that helped me meet Nicholas Laughlin, the great poet and guiding spirit of Caribbean literature today. So my second book continues the sea theme, Undraining Sea. Copyright has reverted to me, so don't go and try to buy this. I can give you a free PDF if you want it. And this has got a dramatic monologue in 3 different voices. It's called Person, Animal, Figure. And the animal is something that is perfect. It's at one with itself. Figure is like the soul or spirit that guides us, which we can't really see. And person is based on very nervous women whom I met when I was studying and living in Oxford, and they were very nervous about pretty much everything in life. So it's 3 voices, but I believe all of us contain some of the same personae. So this is a little bit of person. Being the person who stands up beneath the magazines, I am the person who's angry with feminists for putting it into my head that people think the magazines have something to do with all women, which means with women like me. What a load of rubbish. Ask anyone right here, right now. They would all say no. They would think you are mad. Nobody thinks about my body when I talk, when I walk across the park at night with my shopping. Of course you can't be afraid. I'm sure I'm just as good as invisible, perfectly safe. And there's good money in it for the girls. They all want to do it. It's the glamour. Where's the glamour? Have I been deprived of my right to glamour? It's quite nice when strange men call you darling. Men mean well a lot of the time. Everybody means well. Really, most of the time, we're all right. The animal who is perfect in its utterance talks equably in its sleep. It roars, it growls, it digs, it howls, it roars. The animal who is perfect in its utterance gives voice undisturbed to hunger like caves. What animal? This dark figure envelops as it emerges. Its flow of limbs manifests in the form of valleys of shadow. To have one's head within and touching its shoulders is to rise on a string of stillness towards the hovering grip of an oval that has direction and is no face. So that was my second book, Undraining Sea. Things became even less cheerful with dark and unaccustomed words, which was based on the 16th century English writer George Puttenham's Art of English Poesy, where he talked about writing poems in different shapes, like pyramids or towers, or unbalanced pyramids or unbalanced towers, if you're writing about states or rulers who were unstable or stable. But he also talked about words, and he thought that they were dark and unaccustomed words being brought in by foreigners and people who were too academic. And one of the things about Caribbean English is the number of Englishes and other languages available to us naturally. So no word is dark and unaccustomed, they're all bright and clear. Another book, this is a collaboration with the wonderful and multi-talented Andre Bagou. It's called All Your Houses, and Andre went around Port of Spain photographing houses that had been abandoned for no reason we could tell, maybe disputes, maybe crime, in high-density population areas where they would be desirable. And I was in Oxford reading Aimé Césaire, Cahiers d'un retour au pays natal, notebook of a return to my native land. And I would send Andre a little bit of poetry and he would already have a photograph, and as if psychically the things were resonating with each other. We did a performance in Aliciard, the art space, which was in Robert Street, and we projected these photographs on the walls of different buildings while doing a reading. So this is about collaboration, which is a really important part. All poetry is collaborative, even if it doesn't always name who else is in there. So my Peopletree book, this book, Utter, came out of working at the Oxford English Dictionary. And when you're in the dictionary, inside the dictionary, you start to see language and words not as monolithic, but as variegated and flickering and full of their own life, like a field. And you start thinking of other things that seem monolithic, like authoritative men, or geographical features, or church towers. And you start to realize that all these things have got a multiplicity of life. Stanley Greaves, the Guyanese artist, writer, and musician, kindly let me use a detail from one of his images. This is a sort of Obia jaguar. I'll read the last poem from it. Conversations for a lifetime in 20 minutes and under. 2 planes exited the runway of your face. My hands teared up and did not follow through. A wound that is also a thirst that is also a river that is also a consideration that is also a cavern of living saliva. There may we turn into snakes. Deep awake in thought of you, it fetched some time to know whose disembodiment this was, and steady out of such depth of sleep. Smile to dream again. Consider sleeping, sleep transient, sleep eternal, sleep oblivious, sleep active, sleep utterance, sleep walking, sleep waking, sleep marriage, the wooden cabin of you. When I met you, meant to say, when I saw you, preparing, cleansed my body, forgot my face, without home, remembering, meant to write 100 strokes, without whom, head upside down. Would like to walk in a garden with you and hear the names of plants that, as you call them, are all sensitive. Seems so effortless, gods creating butterflies, you tying your scarf. Citizenship, like being slapped about the face, that's your sunshine. Home, so small it exists only when I am not in it. So small I exist only when I'm contained in it. Every leaf, bell, star ever lyricized lives in your eyes. Ceci n'est pas de la poésie d'amour, a pretty damn like it though a rose is erosion. An impacted forest extracted from birds, devastated only at our risk. My almost peaceful city, turn the other cheek. In all gentleness the cloud landed and stayed halfway up the hillside, striking terror in my heart. Now, in that poem I was experimenting with space, because the space between words, the silence between lines, is what needs to be read even more than the words themselves. At one point there are 2 stanzas side by side and never know how to read it, because that is disrupting the idea of the voice running from A to B, and your eye is supposed to move with the space and never have the right answer, just contemplate the things sitting side by side. So, I should mention People Tree Press, of course. The founder and managing director, Jeremy Pointing, was awarded the Henry Swansea Award for Distinguished Services for Caribbean Literature. This is the book I won a prize for, and I think it is largely due to Elspeth Duncan, who now lives in Tobago, who did this wonderful feather sculpture for Measures of Expatriation near to where she lives in Tobago. And there are a lot of prose poems in this. It's the book I didn't want to write. So when I wrote my first book, I thought I was free like a dead man to write anything I wanted with philosophy and landscape and the theory of music. And then everybody thought, no, it's got other things like identity. So this book, which is very similar, it's got prose poems and philosophical meditations, tackles that issue of identity head on. Language is my home. It is alive other than in speech. It is beyond a thing to be carried with me. It is ineluctable, variegated and muscular. A flicker and drag emanates from the idea of it. Language seems capable of girding the oceanic earth, like the world serpent of Norse legend. It is as if language places a shaping pressure upon our territories of habitation and voyage, thrashing, independent, threatening to rive our known world apart. Yet thought is not bounded by language. At least my experience of thinking does not appear so bound. One day I lost the words wall and floor. There seemed no reason to conceive of a division. The next book, that's not the next book, is it? It's not the blue book. The next blue book, Venus as a Bear, was a Poetry Book Society choice in 2018. And we were filming in the savannah, a savannah sequence which started off initially as a resistance to being locked up for fear of crime or being in a woman's body or whatever, the freedom to walk our spaces. But now, of course, it's a resistance of an imagination to keep looking forward and hoping for the day when we can walk freely again outside of isolation. Similarly, this book is about going beyond the bounds of the poem as a little block on the page. And the truth is, a lot of people give house room to poets. You might sit in somebody's farmhouse in Ireland thinking about Trinidad and write. You might be lighting some incense from Sri Lanka in a house in England and remember a funeral in Trinidad. And so I did an index in the back of this book, which is an index of places, and the places show where they relate to the poems. So some poems will turn up in lots of different place indexes, others only one. The one I'll read here is set in a farmhouse in Ireland, Tibraden, which belongs to Selena Guinness and Colin Graham. And it seemed right to read it now because it's about tending during illness and about the interior and exterior. Tending. A fast-breathed lamb is brought indoors. Illness incandesces in a cardboard box. An infrared lamp, a ruby glass-blown womb. Lit, the shock slows, waits. The head lifts. And if it is enough or not enough to strengthen any one thing, it is life, both given and fought for. It is love, both granite and meadow. The last thing I'll read from, before thanking you so much for being present in all the ways you are especially present during virtual Campus Literature Week, is another collaborative venture called Lightsite. There is a lovely website, lightsitepoetry.com, with images from the ever beautiful and talented Andre Bagu, and lightsitepoetry.com has got his photographs corresponding to little lines of verse. This project is one of expanded translation, An expanded translation is a network which was run by Zoe Schoolding of the University of Bangor in Wales, with Arts and Humanities Research Council funding, and it brought together a lot of poets and practitioners who looked at different ways of using procedures of translation, not just between languages, but between language and art, or prose and poetry, one kind of poetry and another kind of poetry, or sometimes quite jokey processes. So we would work on a text or a piece of text or something by someone else and use these processes to highlight other responses to it and bring life to other aspects of the original source. So I took all French sources, and my sources were Ionesco, Glissant, Georges Perec, Pierre de Ronsard, Simone Weil, and then there's an epigraph from St. Augustine as translated by Henry Chadwick. And there is also a poem after Where It Listeth by J.R. Carpenter. This is a picture of wind, but I mashed that up with Rimbaud and Glissant, who are both great writers of seasons and wind. Brighter than all light, yet more inward than any secret recess, St. Augustine, translated by Henry Chadwick. Incidentally, did you know that St. Augustine was from North Africa, possibly a Berber, something to bear in mind? This book is dedicated to Kai Miller in the year that he played Anansi. Cité de Lumière, Light Sight, expanded translations from Ionesco Entre la vie et le rêve. I won't read the whole note on the text, but I will say that they're inspired by Ionesco's extensive response to a detailed question from his interviewer. And Ionesco had a kind of vision of everything being illuminated. He said that when he was younger, it gave him reserves of luminosity. Alliterative diamond. Quand j'étais plus jeune, j'avais des réserves lumineuses. When I was young, when younger, I had light stockpiled, step wells of luminosity, seams of gleaming inward glow, brightness had my back, hot buttresses, radiant underpinnings, unreserved reservoirs. My fashion walked sunrays, failings wheeled to sunrise. Doing was floating, dear and perpetual shining went into me, should not go out. Look, we have resources. My life, you have my light. I borrowed light from everywhere for that. I borrowed light from a stepwell in Delhi. I borrowed light from Norwich Cathedral in the stone. I borrowed light from people playing Mass. And it's in the form of Anglo-Saxon alliterative verse. Ionesco Perpetual. The epigraph here is from Ionesco saying that you simply need to look properly and see, and that then everything is a marvel. Set out for the horizon. Only pack miracles, mirrors and miracles. Saline vigils may ebb and flow, so that evenings fan out in laughter. Send me night music via paper boats. The beam of a lighthouse decommissioned long ago in a world all aglow, Stevenson's on. Eternity's doing us a favour, see? Joy to the whole moon, lemon, monk, monkey, citrus, parrot, tattooist, flute player, nenufar, water lily, Loriot, testimony, surge, fill, fold, full, lone, digit, minim, any and every forlorn and delightsome what more? The least little thing is a splendour. Now that's a prose poem, and it uses one of Ionesco's own techniques of expanding a list with absurd items to build up a sense of the plenitude and absurdity of the world that we can look at and list. And the Stevenson there is Robert Louis Stevenson, who came from a family of lighthouse keepers, Edinburgh man. And the night music was from a friend who used to send me night music, and I was thinking of the light that used to bring to me. And Andre Bagu has done a beautiful photograph to accompany that at lightsitepoetry.com. And my last response to UNESCO, I can't read. It's called a light box. It's a calligram. It looks like a heart, and it looks like a diamond. It looks like Jared Manley Hopkins' immortal diamond. And I leave you with an immortal diamond in French, Scots, and Trinidad Standard English.